Hello, Shasta County. Media Wench here from Echoplex Media. I was watching the Shasta County Board of Supervisors meeting today, which is February 11th, 2025. A lot of issues surrounding the Elections Commission that aren't just its existence. There's some litigation going on behind the scenes about Tom Toller, who is the appointed registrar of voters after Cathy Darling Allen retired. And I think that this bears a reminder of how we got here. So we're going to take a little trip to the Wayback Machine, way back to June of 2024, when the Board of Supervisors and mostly Kevin Cry decided to have a very public job interview process for the ROV position. And let's just take a second and watch how this whole thing played out here. I think that this points out and shines a spotlight on how this board, and mainly the chair, manipulate things to just have the outcome that they desire, and how the chair manipulates the rest of the board. Oh, at this point, it doesn't matter who it is, into making the decision that he wants. So I feel like this is important to point this out. Just this one thing. So let's take a look at this here.
As I would in any role in any position of leadership I hire in my company. Oftentimes it's said that don't fix what's not broken. Oftentimes then what you get is you get more of the same, and you don't get an opportunity to improve and go forward. Very often, as we talk about our rating criteria, I had two people tie at the highest spot and two people tie at the next one. But there is so much, and I'll give everybody an idea of the rating criteria that we're judging this by. It goes education and training, work experience, job interest and motivation, communication skills, comprehension of position. Now, all of those things can be taken individually however you want. Like education and training, that could mean just their actual former or amount of education post-high school, graduate work, doctorate, certificates, etc. Is it just in elections or as a clerk, or is that just general education? So there's a lot of variables there. I had probably the lengthiest conversation with one candidate, and I'll just say this is Joanna, of the four during the break. I want what's best for this county more than, I won't say anybody because I think we all want the best, but for me, this is far greater than about one race, one election. I feel the person that is best suited to take the office from where it is today into the future would be Tom Toller. I believe he has the there's many things I believe he has. I know this is going to be a board discussion up here, but I feel what was conveyed to me the most was about the leadership perspective of where it is, where it could go. Not once did he say where it needed to go or had to go or what was wrong with it. It was very open to say, I believe there's always room for improvement in any department or any opportunity. And also, I believe that he's not in it, and I'll tell you this, the job interest and motivation, I gave everybody else the highest score. I gave him, I guess you'd say tied for the second or the lowest score of the four. And that's partially because he sees this partially as a duty or I don't want to use the word calling, but I identified the most with his position of why he would want to take this position on. And I would hope that if he was appointed, the staff would rally around him. I do believe there is some phenomenal staff in there, and so I would make a motion that we would appoint Tom Toller.
So I just want to make one little interjection of a point here, is that previous to this statement, Mary Rickert, former supervisor for District 3, had made a motion to appoint Joanna Francesca, who had ran the entire election while Cathy Darling Allen was out due to health reasons. Tim Garman, former supervisor for District 2, had seconded the motion. Patrick wanted Clint Curtis, who is just a blatant election denial grifter. Chris Kellstrom wants whoever the two in the middle want, as long as it's not, I don't know, I guess Joanna. So yeah, let's see how this goes down.
Substitute to the substitute.
Substitute to the substitute.
For sake of discussion, I will second that.
Okay. Supervisor Garman.
Thank you, Chairman Cry. With all due respect, I don't think Tom's the perfect person for this job. He came up here and you heard him talk today. You heard him talk about the district attorney's office, and I just feel like he has a problem with Stephanie Bridget. And that just leads me to believe that he is going to take this as a partisan office and not a nonpartisan office. And you heard Joanna speak today about this is a nonpartisan position. And Joanna has that nonpartisan support. We don't need to further divide, which is what I feel this person is going to do.
I appreciate that. I will, you know what, Supervisor Jones, if I could, Supervisor Kellstrom is behind you in queue, but he hasn't spoke yet. Do you mind? Supervisor Kellstrom.
All right, yeah, this is a very difficult decision. I mean, very difficult. All four of you would be fantastic at this. And, I mean, John was my guy from yesterday, and John wrote the manual on the machines that we use. Joanna's done a fantastic job all the way along the line. I also, part of my decision or part of my thoughts is how are we going to replace Joanna? If we, move you up there, you already said it takes 3 people to replace everything you do. I mean, so, I think Tom would be great. Tom's local. I think my personal things, after reviewing them and after scoring them, I just think Curtis would bring this. I mean, this is the tip of the spear again. I mean, this could change the way votes are counted throughout the entire state. If we were to implement his program, if he was able to get his program implemented, it might actually go, nationwide. So there's some very exciting changes there, and that's why I second the motion.
Supervisor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. In my scoring, I put Thomas a very close number 2. Being local is very strong. He has ties to the community. His knowledge, his way of approaching things, his transparency did place him very high. But I still lean towards Mr. Curtis with the experience from coast to coast. What he has experienced is what I have experienced, and that plays and weighs heavy for me.
Mostly at this point, we'll be losing. Sorry, not sorry to throw some shade at PJ.
But I like Thomas really well. I have no doubt he can do the job.
Supervisor Rickert.
I just want to say I really don't like it when we're discussed as, the nation is watching us or whatever. I am tired of being the guinea pig in the world of politics in the United States. And I really think that we need to focus on what's the appropriate needs of the local people in this county. We are the ones that count. I don't care what somebody in Georgia thinks of us. We need to take care of our own people and only be concerned with the residents of Shasta County and not what impact we're going to make on a national level. I think that is totally, totally inappropriate.
Supervisor Kellstrom.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify one. Somebody misspoke earlier. So you did not, Mr. Curtis, you did not invent this machine to flip votes. You actually wrote the software and told them that it could be manipulated and that you couldn't use it. So, I mean, that's out there now that he supposedly wrote a program to change votes or to throw elections. he wrote the program to prove that they can be manipulated, and he told them you can't use this, and they used it anyways. Is that correct?
Okay. Supervisor Ricker, I would agree with your statements about that. But also, thank God our founding fathers didn't feel the same way, or we'd still be under the king's rule. Someone has to go first. Someone has to stand up. Bullies are bullies until somebody finally says enough. Again, and I don't personally care where anybody lives. I don't care if they grew up in Happy Valley or another state, or all I care is that they meet the qualifications and can they do the job. Supervisor Garman, you had mentioned something, and I didn't write it down. What was the comment that you made about about the DA's office?
Yeah,
and
just
stuff
that
like that?
just that today and during
Well,
the
here's-
conversation, he had mentioned that, and I thought, you know what, this is an interview for an ROV, not an interview for
Yeah.
that. And I just felt
The majority-
he's kind of putting it out on the table what he stands for.
Well, the majority of the questions I've asked in 2 days have really centered around, for the most part, leadership and about upbringing. And I don't mean upbringing in terms of, ideologies per se, but just like who the person is, where do they want to go, and can I trust and believe how they're going to treat the staff? Because that's one of the things that I care mostly about as well, is the individuals that work in that department.
And I would have a grave concern about
I want you to pay real close attention to the verbiage and the tone and the tenor that Kevin Cry is taking while he is manipulating the conversation to ensure that he can get the outcome that he wants. This is like a masterclass in manipulation here.
that. If you're really concerned about how he's going to treat the staff, I mean, he's already coming out and saying, if you're not on my side, I'm not going to agree with you.
Well, it's not about-
And that staff is going to be, they're going to be all over the place,
and
right?
I'm
And it's a
not-
nonpartisan position.
Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you about sides. Like what the reality is we make this appointment, and then we are hands off. Like at that point, it is that person's office, and it's not their job; it's their office. They're essentially elected. They don't get to do anything. I mean, we can make recommendations on their budget, but that's what it is. And
Also, that's a pretty good point to emphasize right there. Is while today it's mainly just Kevin is trying to figure out ways to still get his fingers in those elections office pies. His original course of action and his original thought process was that once we install Tom Toller, then we're hands off. And we make recommendations or whatever, but he's taking the flag and running it the rest of the way down the field, to throw in one of those sports analogies that he loves so much.
anyway, it's not about arguing, it's about the conversation, I know. Supervisor Ricker.
Yes, I just want the three of you to think long and hard about this. Do you want this to be your legacy, putting someone in there that has never run an election before? And
My legacy's on how I love my wife,
okay,
kids, and my relation
okay,
with the Lord.
excuse me. And do you want to put someone in who's never run an election before? And we have the general election coming on November 5th. If it fails, it's going to rest on your shoulders. And it's going to be your fault.
And according to most of the people who go and talk at the Shasta County Board of Supervisors meetings, that November 5th election failed miserably because they are terribly upset about it still. Even though they won, and even though they got basically everything that they wanted, they're really mad about it still. So I'm going to go ahead and call that a fail.
And is that how are you going to be able to sleep at night with that
Like
outcome?
a rock.
So you will not assume responsibility for this decision when you know you have a fully qualified person who can fulfill the obligations and responsibilities and knows the process and will complete. We know that she can pull this election off when you have 3 unknowns.
Okay,
And if it doesn't happen, just know that it's going to be on your 3 shoulders.
Perfect. So here's what I tell anybody listening, and especially people in the elections office. There's 2 people sitting over there to our right, our CEO and our county council, both of which I campaigned hard in either A, recruiting, or B, us selecting. And across the county, every department has been overwhelmingly thankful that those 2 people are in those seats today. And this seat, and I told Joanna this, and Joanna, it's what we talked for 35 minutes during the break. I think you are phenomenal. I think you are the right person, but you are not the right person yet. I believe you need, what would be best would be for you to have 2 years under a different leadership, under a different way to do things, under a different way to look at that beach ball as it is spinned and understand there are different ways to get there. I'm not going to go into the conversations that we had in between here because I'm just not going to do that. And I'm going to be resolute about my decision. I think that this isn't about politics. This is about bringing people together. This is about somebody who is going to be able to stand up to the criticism, the ridicule, and they're not in it for themselves. Regardless of what people want to say, I didn't get into this for myself. When somebody jumps in the pool with all their clothes on because a dog or a person has fallen in, they don't think about taking their cell phone out. They just get in and go. And that's how I got into politics, and that's
Literally none of this means anything. He's just convoluting and diluting the conversation to create confusion.
the exact way I believe Mr. Toller has approached this. I had never even spoken to him, maybe but for 2 seconds, previous to asking if he wanted to be appointed on the library, the Library of Law Board, when there was a person that came up that was underqualified to some degree. So I called him and talked to him. That's it. I talked to him, and now that I've gotten to know him a little bit more, so that's where I am. Supervisor Garman.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman Cry. Hey, Supervisor Kellstrom, you mentioned that John Gaglione was top of your list. Do you still feel that way?
I said he was my pick yesterday. I'm the one that picked him yesterday to bring him back.
Would he be your pick today?
Again, all 4 of them would do a fantastic job. I think John.
That's a non-answer.
The system that we have in place now, more than anybody, for years, wrote the manuals on them, put the online training on there. I mean, he knows our system that we're using better than anybody. So, again, it's a very difficult decision. I mean, is he still my top pick today? He's in the top 4. I know that. I mean,
Supervisor Kellstrom, rubber meets the road, brother. What is it? I mean, like I'll tell you, like if I look at my score sheets here, like I said, 2 tied top, 2 tied below, but I would have a hard time putting anybody else over Joanna Franciscat with what she would glean from the others. I believe there is one person, that would be Tom Toller, that would be able to come in with a fresh set of eyes, processes, be steadfast in returning, possibly for the first time ever anywhere in the last 4 years, some level of transparency and communication. We're now doing the whole thing publicly, but I would ask this group up here to Supervisor Kellstrom.
yeah, I mean, so I guess to answer your question, Tim, as far as my score sheet goes, I ended up putting Mr. Curtis as number 1, and he scored higher. I mean, everybody else was so close, too close to call. But he came to the very top, and for the simple reason that, again, I mean, in my perfect scenario, I would love to see him come here. I would love to see Joanna work underneath him for the remainder of this term. I would love to see him institute his plan, his vision with the filming of the ballots so that we could have a.
So literally at this point, the only supervisor that wanted Tom Toller is Kevin Cry. The only supervisor. Chris Kellstrom wanted Clint Curtis. PJ Knaps wanted Clint Curtis. Tim and Mary wanted Joanna. Kevin wants Tom Toller. And what Kevin wants
100% record on everything, and then I would like to see him go somewhere else and Joanna take over there with the system in place. That would be my perfect vision.
Supervisor Garber. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we've discussed this. So now is this like the and I think this is great for the public. Oh, Council Larmer.
Substitute to the substitute.
Yeah, well, I think this is great for the public personally because you only get to speak to one supervisor usually when you're going through a decision like this, and then it becomes two people going in to try and convince a third. Council Larmer, do you have something?
Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I want to be sure that we understand we have 3 motions with seconds, and so we're going to take those in reverse order. So you'll do Toller, Joanna, and then Clint.
Yeah, and I will just say I think Mr. Curtis, you did. I mean, everybody interviewed phenomenal. Like I think everybody came.
No, that wasn't true then either.
Try out second day. I think some, and I took them each separately, but I thought what you said today was great. My apprehension to a point is some of the things that you've brought up, I think can already be like the filming of the ballots. I think that is great. That was said over a year ago, and I've asked like, why aren't we doing that? You know, and Joanna and I have actually talked about that. Like, why don't if we can just film it? Like, that's not that difficult. Let's put it in a budget. So some of the things you've come up, I think we can do some of that. John, you know, my college best friend is a big Cubs fan, so you were out automatically when you said White Sox. No, I'm just kidding. But I just think leading this office with Joanna, I don't know that is the best position for you, and I can't see passing over who we already have in that capacity. And Joanna, we've already spoken about this, so I would be supporting Joanna if we don't go with Tom. I want Tom.
This is how Kevin Cry manipulated the entire Board of Supervisors. Well, the two to his left and right, who he had to convince because, you know, count to 3. This is the moment where Kevin Cry strong-armed the board into doing what he wanted. This is how we got to where we are right now, where Tom is now being sued by election nutters over an election that was very clearly run to the point where it was fine. And for some reason people are still mad about it. But here's your starting point. In case you need somebody to blame, in case you need to point fingers at somebody, to be like, hey, how did we get ourselves in this mess? This is it right here.
To bring the things he spoke about, and if he, and I actually told him right over there on the railing, I said, hey, I didn't ask you this, but I've talked to every candidate. I said, are you going to truly give everybody a shot to be, because I think there's some really good people in that office. And he said, absolutely. And again, all you can do is go with a gut. I've coached way too many years and way too many thousands of kids and led way too many people to not go with my gut. And if I thought any different, I wouldn't put him forward. Supervisor Rickert.
Yeah, I just have a question. Is it possible, the candidates are sitting here, is it possible that they can ask a question or a comment? I just feel like we're kind of talking around them.
Well, I would prefer not. But
okay, but I'm just asking if that's just a possibility.
No,
I don't know,
board
maybe
discussion.
not.
Supervisor Garman.
Thank you, Chairman Cry. So there you have it, folks. Supervisor Cry just laid it out for you guys. He gave us an ultimatum. It's Tom Toller or it's Joanna. And he did this to the other two, Supervisor Kellstrom and Supervisor Jones. You guys are being played. Just like I told Mr. Mangus yesterday, sorry to throw you under the bus, Mike, it would be Tom Toller because Cry would play this card.
Well, it's not, it's
I feel
not,
like-
a,
I
it's
feel
not a
like it's
card.
wrong.
We're doing
No,
it in
excuse
public.
me, that's my
Oh, it's a card.
I think that it's wrong. It's just disgrace this county, and it's going to be a sad day for this county if it goes down this way. And I would urge Jones or Cry to step up and not let Cry run over you.
You mean Jones or Kellstrom? Because Supervisor Garmin, like, this is the difference. You make these deals in public or in private. I make them up front. Don't even
I don't
impede
make
my
those
character.
things.
I'm talking now. You're coming at my character, and I'm doing it out here. I said
You put your character on Front Street. He's just pointing out what he just saw you do.
this process was going to be done this way. I was the one that led it like this, that wanted it to be in public, that wanted it to be transparent, because you and other people do this behind closed doors. I did it that way because it needs to be said.
You wanted to do this in front of everybody so you could say that it was transparent. When in all actuality, when in reality, you could still manipulate people into doing what you want in front of other people. You don't have to do those things behind closed doors. Very obviously, you could do it in front of a whole audience.
This is what I think, and I would rather be open to the public about my decisions and choice. And the fact that you would do that is insulting to the four people sitting over there. Supervisor Jones.
Well, thank you, Chairman Cry. I mean, it is a little bit of arm twisting, but that comes with the job. And if you can't handle it, you shouldn't run for a position like this. There's lots of choices. We have to make a decision. And Tom is a good guy. I've known him. I like his thinking.
Clint Curtis was a big old yoga stretch. There was a very slim chance they were going to get that wackadoo in there, period.
And so you don't have to twist my arm too hard for a really very good individual that has a lot of history here in Shasta County. Chair, if we could, I'd like to call for some votes.
Okay. Does anybody else like to say anything? All right, we're going to go to a vote. The substitute was appointing Tom Toller on the basis of a background check. We'll take that vote first. We'll start to my, I guess it doesn't matter. We'll start to my right with Supervisor Garmin.
Supervisor Garmin.
No.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes.
Supervisor Cry.
Yes.
Supervisor Kellstrom.
Yes.
And Supervisor Rickert.
No.
Passes 3-2. So at this time, Monica Fugit and
So, in case you were wondering how we got here, there's your answer. Kevin Cry manipulated Patrick Jones and Chris Kellstrom into voting for Tom Toller because otherwise he was going to put Joanna Francescan in there. And then we see where we are now, where the loud, ultra-right side conservative base is incredibly upset with Tom Toller. And in case they're looking for somebody to blame, your boy Kevin. All you got to do is jump in the Wayback Machine to June of last year when all of this was going down. And there you have it. Thanks everybody for watching. And we'll see you around the campfire some other time. Bye-bye.